There were still petals on the aisle. I stepped over them, holding the knife I'd just used to cut a cake no one had eaten, while the florist silently collected the centerpieces like this was just another job. She didn't make eye contact. No one did. The string quartet had packed up 20 minutes ago, and the guy sweeping up confetti by the exit looked more heartbroken than I was. That's not to say I wasn't broken, just that I hadn't fully realized it yet. My bow tie was crooked. I'd undone the top button hours ago. My phone was vibrating nonstop in my pocket, but I ignored it. I wasn't ready to read any messages with the word devastated in them. That word was too generous for what just happened. She didn't run down the aisle. She didn't scream she couldn't do it. She didn't faint or freeze or panic. No, she simply texted her maid of honor 3 words. Tell him sorry. Then she got into a black rental car, left the venue, and flew to Costa Rica. I didn't get that text. I got nothing. Her mom cried. My dad tried to act like he was relieved. A few guests asked if this was a prank, like we were going to jump out yelling "Gotcha!" with confetti cannons and matching tattoos. But the joke was on me, because everyone left. Everyone but her sister. And that's where it gets complicated. Because she didn't just stay. She poured me a drink, looked me in the eye, and said something I'll never forget. She always ruins things she thinks she doesn't deserve. But maybe you still do. That night didn't end the way anyone expected. Neither did the next morning, or the week after that, or the day we signed the marriage license. But if you're still reading, you should probably know, this isn't a love story. It's a revenge story, and I didn't even realize I was the weapon. I didn't sleep that night, not even a minute. It wasn't grief that kept me awake. It was something else, something sharper, almost electric. Like I was trapped between humiliation and clarity. My tux still hung from the doorknob, half unzipped. My phone had died hours ago, face down on the windowsill. And yet, there I sat in the hotel suite we'd booked for our honeymoon night, alone, watching the sunrise filter through the drapes like it was mocking me. And Carmen, her sister, was still there. She'd ordered a bottle of champagne on the room's tab. I hadn't said much. She hadn't either. But she didn't leave. She didn't even hesitate. She just poured 2 glasses like this was how it was always supposed to be. You know she asked me to talk you out of it? Carmen said, finally breaking the silence. The wedding, I mean. I blinked. My voice cracked. When? 2 nights ago. The weight of that hit me harder than I expected. So she'd already planned it. While I was at the rehearsal dinner, while I was writing vows that made me cry, she was crafting her escape route. Her sister knew, and didn't stop it, or warn me. But Carmen leaned in, reading my face like a book she'd already memorized. I didn't say anything because I knew she was bluffing, she said. Until she wasn't. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My jaw tensed. My eyes burned. I felt like my skeleton wanted to leave my body. She always does this, she added softer now. Starts fires and walks away before the smoke even rises. There was no joy in her voice, just exhaustion. Not pity. I would have hated that, but understanding. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I thought it might be another note. Instead, it was a contract. I was going to give this to her as a joke, she said. Now I'm giving it to you. The heading read, Unofficial Agreement of Reclamation. We, the undersigned, agree to recover, reclaim, and rewrite the story stolen by selfish idiots. I blinked again. She'd drawn doodles in the margins. Little rings. A knife through a cake. A cartoon of her sister holding a suitcase labeled Run. At the bottom was a line for 2 signatures. Hers was already there. The other was blank. What is this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Carmen sipped her drink. It's a pact. You and me. A 1-week marriage. Paperwork optional. We fake it. Smile for the cameras. Wipe her smug little smirk off every family photo. You get your dignity back. I get my revenge. I stared at her. The room spun. She raised a brow. Or you can cry into the bedding she picked out for the next 6 nights. Your call. It was the most insane thing I'd ever heard. And yet, I signed it. I don't remember doing it. My hand moved before my brain caught up. Maybe it was the bubbles, or the silence, or the faint echo of my parents arguing in the hallway downstairs. Maybe I was trying to punish someone. Maybe that someone was me. But the next morning, we walked into City Hall and walked out married. The real story hadn't even started yet. But the cameras? Oh, they were already watching. It was supposed to be a joke. A paper marriage. A middle finger to a runaway bride. A way to feel something again when everything inside me had gone cold. We weren't even planning to file it with the state. I thought we'd rip the contract up by Thursday, call it performance art, and disappear into our respective emotional caves. But life, or whatever twisted force was puppeteering this madness, had a different plan. Because someone took a photo. Not just any photo. The photo. It was snapped right outside the courthouse, moments after Carmen and I stepped into the sunlight, squinting, still laughing from something she'd whispered in my ear, something about her sister's middle name being misspelled on every RSVP. In the photo, I'm holding her hand, crooked tie and all. She's wearing the same red heels she had on during the wedding rehearsal. I'm smiling for the first time in 24 hours, and it's not fake. She's smirking like a villain with a secret. We didn't even see the camera, but someone did. By the time we got back to my apartment, the photo was everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit. Even the venue's official Pinterest board somehow got hold of it, tagged under unexpected wedding endings. The caption? Runaway bride's sister steals the show, and the groom. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. Carmen had 4 missed calls from her mother. I had 7 from mine. Someone even emailed me an article draft titled, From Left at the Altar to Legally Bound in 12 Hours. Meet the couple who broke the internet. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But Carmen? She poured more champagne. Again. And said just 2 words. Let it burn. Here's the thing about Carmen. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't blink. She grew up as the other daughter. The one who didn't get the lead in school plays, who didn't wear matching outfits for family photos, who didn't get surprise birthday trips to Cancun. While Melinda danced in the center of every room, Carmen took notes from the corners. This, whatever this had become, was her spotlight, and I was just trying to survive the brightness. By day 2, we were trending. By day 3, I was getting DMs from wedding blogs asking if we'd do interviews. One of them even offered to fly us to New York for a Love Reimagined podcast. Carmen responded with, "Make it LA, and we'll talk." I nearly choked when I read it. But then, something changed. On day 4, Melinda called me. Not texted. Called. Full ring. No warning. Her name still had the little heart emoji next to it on my phone. I hadn't changed it. I hadn't even deleted our engagement photos yet. I answered. I shouldn't have, but I did. "Daryl?" she said, soft and slow, like a bomb defusing itself. I saw the photos. There was a long pause, and then she added something I never expected to hear from the woman who vanished on me without a single goodbye. "You were never supposed to move on that fast." I didn't know what to say, not because I was speechless, but because I wasn't sure who she was talking to anymore. The doormat she left behind, or the version of me standing next to her sister. When I say I wasn't ready to hear her voice again, I mean it felt like someone was digging their fingers into a barely closed wound. Melinda's voice was softer than I remembered. Maybe it was the signal, or maybe she was trying to sound harmless, like she hadn't detonated my entire life for days earlier. She asked how I was. I laughed. Not the fun kind. The bitter kind that tastes like metal. "You're calling me now?" I said, pacing the kitchen with my hand gripping the back of my neck. Carmen wasn't home. She'd gone to get groceries. We were pretending to be domestic. The internet seemed to eat that up. I panicked, Melinda said. "It wasn't about you." I wasn't thinking straight. That sentence stuck with me. It wasn't about you. Of course it wasn't. It never had been. I let her talk. She went on about how the pressure got to her, how the moment felt too big, how she booked a flight just to get away for a few days. Not to leave forever. Not to humiliate me. Just to breathe. She talked like I was still her safety net. Like I'd be waiting exactly where she left me, bruised but grateful. "I'm coming back tonight," she said. "We should talk." I don't remember ending the call. I just remember the silence that followed, the kind that presses against your ears like water. I stood there for minutes, phone still in my hand, heartbeat thumping like a drum. When Carmen walked back in with 2 bags of produce and a box of almond milk she knew I hated, she took one look at my face and said, "She called, didn't she?" I nodded. She didn't blink. She just set the bags down and reached into her coat pocket. Then, without a word, she slid a folded piece of paper across the table. I opened it. It was another contract. This one was typed. Addendum to the Agreement of Reclamation. Clause 3. If the original bride attempts to reinsert herself into the narrative, the undersigned agree to double down. Double down. I said. Double down, Carmen repeated, grabbing a knife to slice a mango like we weren't planning psychological warfare in the middle of my barely furnished apartment. We play it bigger. We get louder. She wanted attention? Let's give her a circus. You're enjoying this, I muttered, still reeling from the call. Carmen didn't deny it. You were wreckage, Daryl. I just gave you something to burn. That night, Melinda returned. She didn't show up at my door, though. She showed up on national television. I don't know how she pulled it off, but someone had given her a 5-minute interview slot on a late-night segment about viral wedding culture. And there she was, the woman who left me at the altar, sitting in a makeup chair, blinking innocently at the camera. She called me sweet. She called Carmen dramatic. She said she never imagined things would escalate so fast. And then she smiled. Not the smile of regret. Not the smile of someone who wanted forgiveness. The smile of someone who wanted to win. Carmen and I watched it together on the couch. She didn't move. I didn't breathe. She just declared war. Carmen finally said. What now? I asked, my voice almost gone. Carmen turned her head slowly. Now? We stopped pretending. And just like that, the game we were faking became something real. The morning after Melinda's TV appearance, Carmen staged a photo shoot in my living room. She moved the couch, threw a blanket over the ugly brown carpet, and taped a bouquet of fake roses to the wall. She borrowed my button-down shirt and paired it with lipstick so red it bordered on theatrical. We posed like high school sweethearts in a Sears catalog, holding mugs, laughing too hard, one shot with our hands accidentally intertwined. And behind every forced smile, I could feel the message being sharpened like a blade. This wasn't for us. This was for her. She weaponized sympathy, Carmen said, checking the angles. We respond with joy. Public joy. Over the top, disgustingly photogenic joy. I wanted to argue. I should have. But instead, I stood there holding a mug full of cold coffee and let her wrap her arms around me like we were in love. The internet ate it up again. By noon, the photo was reposted with captions like, "Not all heroes wear veils," and "From altar to alter ego, Carmen and Daryl are the real love story." But not everyone was clapping. By late afternoon, I got a message from someone I hadn't seen in years. Riley, Melinda's childhood best friend. The same one who used to call me the emotionally constipated librarian because I organized my Spotify playlists by mood. She was never subtle, and she hadn't changed. Her message was short. She's not done. I replied with a question mark. She didn't answer. But the very next day, I found out exactly what she meant. Melinda posted a video. Not a rant. Not a dramatic breakdown. A vlog, edited, filtered, with soft music and gentle transitions. It opened with her sitting cross-legged on a hotel bed, wearing a white sweater and no makeup, trying very hard to look raw. Her eyes were glassy. Her voice, devastatingly calm. She said she had made mistakes. That life sometimes throws you into panic before you even know you're afraid. That she was watching from afar as two people she trusted turned grief into entertainment. And finally, like a dagger in the ribs, she added, "He doesn't love her. He's just trying to punish me." It went viral in 6 hours. Suddenly, we were the villains. Comments flooded our pages. People called us vindictive, performative, petty. Some said Carmen had always been jealous, that this was her long game. Others said I was mentally unstable for jumping into a marriage days after being dumped. And the worst part? They weren't wrong. Because no matter how many staged kisses we posted, no matter how many avocado toast selfies we uploaded, none of it changed the fact that I hadn't really stopped waiting for Melinda to explain why. Not apologize. Not beg. Just explain. But that night, Carmen didn't talk strategy. She didn't plot a counterattack. She sat on the edge of the bed, phone in her lap, and asked me something I wasn't prepared to hear. "Are you using me, Daryl?" I looked up, heart racing. "What? No. Carmen, this was your idea." She didn't blink. "Yes, but I didn't think you'd start enjoying it." "I'm not." I stopped. Because I didn't know how to finish that sentence. I wasn't enjoying it. I was addicted to it. The chaos. The comments. The feeling that I wasn't a footnote in someone else's story anymore. For the first time in years, people were talking about me. And even if it was a mess, at least it was mine. Carmen stood, grabbed her keys, and paused at the door. "If you want this to stay fake, Daryl, I need you to say it out loud. Right now." But I couldn't. Because suddenly, for reasons I couldn't explain, I didn't want it to be fake anymore. We had rules. Unspoken, but clear. We didn't touch when cameras weren't rolling. We didn't sleep in the same bed. We didn't talk about feelings, real ones. It was revenge theater. A digital chess game against the woman who discarded me like a bad outfit. We weren't soulmates. We were soldiers in the same ridiculous war. Until the kiss. It happened in the middle of nowhere, a roadside diner off Highway 8. We'd driven out there to avoid the paparazzi. But of course Carmen had posted some poetic photo of a coffee cup and a cloudy sky with the caption, "Healing in Motion." By the time we arrived, two guys with DSLRs were already camped outside. We sat in the back booth, her boots on the seat, my hands trembling as I tried to act normal. She was ranting about some wedding blogger who claimed we were gaslighting America. I tried to laugh. I think I even nodded. But something in me had shifted since last night. I couldn't stop replaying her question. "Are you using me?" And the silence that followed. The waitress brought our check. Carmen leaned over the table to grab it, and I said her name before I could stop myself. "Carmen." She looked up. "Yeah." I couldn't answer. My throat closed. So I did something I hadn't done in years, something impulsive, messy, unforgivable. I kissed her. It wasn't performative. It wasn't for the cameras. It was clumsy and desperate and quiet. And she didn't pull away. Not at first. But when she did, she looked wrecked. She stood, grabbed her jacket, and whispered just one sentence before storming out the back door. "Don't confuse punishment with love." I followed her. Of course I did. I ran after her like the fool I was. The same fool who once believed Melinda's late-night apologies meant change. The same fool who built castles from text messages and breathless phone calls. She was outside by the dumpster, lighting a cigarette. She didn't even smoke. Her hands were shaking. "I didn't plan that," I said. "Obviously," she muttered, not looking at me. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not," she snapped, voice cracking. "You're not sorry. You're scared. You're lost. You're still chasing someone who left you with a note instead of a face." That hit like a gut punch. She wasn't wrong. I was still standing in the ashes of a wedding that never happened, trying to rebuild my identity out of borrowed affection. But what she said next was the real detonator. "I shouldn't have told you," she said, barely above a whisper. I frowned. "Told me what?" She looked up, tears building now. "About Melinda. About the runaway. About the note." "What are you talking about?" I lied. My stomach dropped. Carmen turned to me, arms folded tight across her chest like she was holding herself together with force. "She didn't leave a note, Daryl. She didn't text me the night before. I made that up." I felt the world tilt. The edges of everything I thought I knew began to curl and blacken like paper held to flame. "She didn't warn me," she continued. "I didn't know. No one did. Not until she was already gone. I needed you to hate her enough to say yes to me." I couldn't breathe. "You manipulated me," I said, barely able to form the words. She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I did." The silence that followed felt apocalyptic. And then, in one final blow, she dropped the match. "And I think I might be falling in love with you." I didn't answer her. I couldn't. I stood there blinking at her like I'd forgotten how language worked, like if I just stood still long enough the moment would rewind. But it didn't. She said she made it all up. That she manipulated me. That the original story, the story I'd been clutching like a life raft, wasn't real. The text from Melinda. The warning. The staged idea that Carmen had been my quiet protector, my unexpected partner in chaos. All of it. Fiction. Scripted by someone who knew exactly how to dismantle me. And then she had the audacity to say she was falling in love with me. I think I laughed. Or maybe it was a sound so hollow it just echoed that way in my chest. My hands were cold. I didn't trust myself to speak because I didn't know whether I was going to scream or confess something darker. "I need air," I mumbled. And I left her there, behind the diner, under flickering neon and falling silence. The ride home felt like a funeral. Not of her, not even of us, but of whatever illusion I'd been carrying. That I could somehow flip betrayal into something beautiful. That I could turn pain into power if I just kept smiling for the cameras. But pain doesn't dissolve. It doesn't evolve. It grows teeth. I turned off my phone for 2 days. Didn't check socials. Didn't read comments. Carmen texted twice, once to ask if I was okay, once to say she was leaving the door open. I ignored them both. On the third day, there was a knock at my door. I thought it might be her. Carmen. Maybe one last plea for honesty or closure or war. But when I opened it, it was worse. It was Melinda, standing there like nothing had happened, like she hadn't disassembled my life one impulsive plane ticket at a time. Her hair was damp from rain. No makeup, no cameras, no filters, just her. And I hated how badly I still remembered every freckle. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. I should have slammed the door. I should have thrown a chair at her or shouted about the viral video, the note she never wrote, the weeks I spent being a caricature online. But I didn't. Because I'm Daryl, the guy who forgives before he understands. She stepped in like she knew I wouldn't stop her, like she still owned space here. I saw what Carmen said online. She began, dropping her umbrella by the door. "I didn't come here to fight. Why did you come?" She looked up. Her eyes were tired. Not dramatic tired. Real tired. Tired like she'd been carrying a truth no one else wanted to touch. "I left because I found something out," she said. "Something about you. And about her." My pulse stopped. "Carmen didn't just fall for you after the wedding," she continued, slow and careful, like detonating landmines with her words. "She planned this. She planned you. For months." I narrowed my eyes. "What are you talking about?" "She was in love with you long before I left," Melinda said. "She admitted it once at a wine night. Said you were too soft for me to keep. Said I didn't deserve someone who listens the way you do." "That's not proof. She had your name saved in her phone for a year. Not Daryl. Not future brother-in-law. Just mine." Melinda let the word hang there. "She waited, Daryl. She waited for me to screw up." I staggered back a step. The betrayal wasn't just hers anymore. It was engineered. "I was selfish," Melinda said. "I'll own that. But she was surgical." Silence wrapped the room like a noose. "I didn't come back to win you," she added. "I came back to warn you." But it was already too late. Because the headlines the next morning would prove one final twist, one no one saw coming. Carmen was gone. Vanished. Deleted every account. Turned off her phone. Moved out of the apartment she shared with her roommate. Left nothing behind but a voicemail. One sentence. 7 words. It was never about love for me. And suddenly, I wasn't the victim anymore. I was just the final experiment. The morning after Carmen vanished, I woke up to quiet for the first time in months. No notifications pinging. No interviews pending. No endless scrolling through people dissecting my life like it was an episode of reality TV they had paid to critique. Just the hum of my fridge and the wind nudging the blinds. Her voicemail kept looping in my head. It was never about love for me. I didn't know whether to feel betrayed or relieved. Maybe both. I sat on the kitchen floor for hours, staring at the contract she'd written. Our ridiculous agreement of reclamation. The ink had bled in spots from spilled coffee. The paper crinkled from being folded and unfolded too many times. The signatures looked childish now, like two people playing at control because they didn't know how to face their grief. I didn't blame her anymore. Not fully. We were both products of Melinda's hurricane, 2 orbiting satellites caught in her gravity. But Carmen didn't just want revenge. She wanted identity. I think we both did. That night, I drove back to the church. The same one where it all started. The one with the cracked stained glass and that stubborn flickering light above the altar. The door was unlocked, as if it had been waiting for me. Dust had settled over the pews. There were still faint streaks of flower petals on the floor, pale and brittle. I sat where I'd once stood in a tuxedo and waited for a woman who never came. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a fool. I felt free. It hit me all at once. That maybe this entire disaster, every humiliating headline and broken vow and viral photo, had been a strange kind of intervention. A brutal one, but a necessary one. I'd built my worth around being chosen, around being someone's second chance, someone's proof of love. And maybe losing both sisters was the universe's way of saying, stop begging to be seen. 3 months passed before I heard from either of them again. Melinda sent a postcard from Costa Rica, just a picture of the ocean and 2 words, "I'm healing." Carmen didn't send anything. But her roommate told me she'd moved to Oregon, enrolled in an art program, and was painting again. Apparently, one of her pieces had gone viral online. I saw it eventually, a canvas split in 2, one side burning in reds and oranges, the other calm and blue, like fire meeting forgiveness. It was called The Altar. And me? I went back to work. I adopted another cat. I stopped checking trending pages. I started journaling again, quietly this time, not for anyone to read. just to remind myself that my voice existed before all of them. Then one morning, I got a package in the mail with no return address. Inside was a light bulb, a brand new one. No note, no message, just that. The exact kind that had flickered above my mirror the morning of the wedding. The one I'd told myself I'd fix later. I laughed until I cried. That night, I screwed it in. For the first time, the light held steady. No flicker, no shadow, just warmth. And I realized something simple but powerful. Love doesn't always arrive dressed like a wedding. Sometimes it shows up in the quiet, when you finally learn to stop chasing what left and start keeping what stays. So no, I never married Melinda. And no, Carmen and I never spoke again. But I did keep one promise from that ridiculous contract. The line that said, "We agree to reclaim the story stolen by selfish idiots." I reclaimed mine. And for once, I didn't need a camera to prove it.